8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is Liam Hendricks, and you're watching Crosstown, Crosstalk on the Barroom Network.
Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Every summer in Chicago, the sunshine spotlights the city's spectacular skyline. Its luxurious lakeshore, marvelous monuments, and the over 200 neighborhoods in the city. And it also brings to light two of the greatest sports franchises in the world. On the north side, it's the Cubs. On the south side, it's the White Sox. This is Crosstown Crosstalk.
Hello, and welcome to another very exciting episode of Crosstown Crosstalk presented by the Barroom Network. My name is Vinnie, Parise, and I am super stoked to be here with you today. You might notice for the second straight show here on the Barroom Network, I am standing up. I started bar down standing up yesterday. I probably stood up for maybe like the first 50 minutes of the show. Neck started to hurt. I sat down. I don't know what's going to happen today. Okay. The status of my standing and sitting remains to be seen. Joe says, hey to Aldo. Hello to Joe. I'm not Aldo, but Aldo, breaking news, will be here today on this show. But first, before we get to Aldo and the Chicago Bears, I'm going to be talking some football until Aldo gets here with one of my very best friends in the world, Joe Mandel. Joseph, how we doing?
What's up, Vin? Long time no see, a whole week.
I know, it's been a whole week with lots of texting in between, of course.
Of course.
Joe, we normally talk baseball and Crosstown Crosstalk, but, you know, Crosstown Crosstalk has slowly become just an all Chicago sports show.
Yeah.
Which is totally cool with me. In the summer, it's going to lean baseball, of course, with that being like the main attraction in Chicago. You got the Cubs and the White Sox. But in the winter, when the Cubs and the White Sox are both a bunch of cheap frauds, especially the White Sox, you know, sometimes it's more fun to talk about the Bears and what's going on in the NFL. Now, the Bears suck too, and they're a dumb organization. But at least we know that they have a chance based on the rules in the NFL. The White Sox the Bears have a bad owner, but they still have a chance if their GM or coach are ever smart. The White Sox have the greatest coach, the greatest GM in the world. They're still handcuffed. They still have no shot. It's basically pointless to be a fan, but we do anyway because we're dumb.
We're real suckers.
We really are real suckers. I mean, the only thing the White Sox have going for them, they look nice. I think they're one of the most well-dressed teams in Major League Baseball. I mean, the Rays, when they're not wearing their Devil Ray stuff, I literally think that like their logo, their color, it's like puke. I literally think it's so ugly. And I'm not poo-pooing the Rays. I wish they would go back to their old school way of. They don't even have to be the Devil Rays. They could just have the Devil Ray colors if they really don't want to be.
I do like the Devil Ray jerseys though.
Me too. They're so sick. They're so sick. But you know what? I'd rather my team play well than look good. Personally, that's just my personal preference. But like
sure,
the Bears, they have one of the coolest jerseys in the league. But you know, we'll get to the Bears in a minute. I want to start with the breaking news that happened today in the NFL, which kind of preceded some interesting breaking news yesterday. These guys have kind of been linked for a long time because they were head coach and offensive coordinator. It was an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator with the Cleveland Browns way back in the day. Of course, it was their defensive coordinator, Nick Saban. He retired from Alabama yesterday. But today we found out that the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick are parting ways. What is your reaction to those two things?
First off, the Belichick thing, it's been reported for a while, right? It's been one of those things that's been floating around, and we all kind of saw it coming. I think the main question for me now is Bill done coaching, or is he going to go somewhere else? I can't see this guy being done with football, so I see him landing with a team with a powerhouse quarterback, whoever that is, whether it's the Chargers, I don't think they'll make a change in Miami, but he would kind of certainly be a fit there. They won't. The Eagles would be I think that's my dark horse here is if the Eagles fire Sirianni, bring in Bill Belichick and look at that empire.
That'd be sick.
That's what I'm thinking. That's my brain is going in that way, Vin. Do you think this guy's done with football? Because I certainly don't.
I absolutely do not think he's done with football. I think there's a difference between Saban saying he's retired and Bill saying they've mutually parted ways. Bill is also so Saban's done everything he can as a college football head coach, right? Nobody argues he is in my opinion, he is the undisputed GOAT of the national of the NCAA football. Now, I think that same could be said for Bill, but there is one shadow there's two shadows clouding Bill right now. That I think he would like to, before it's over, kind of cast himself away from. I don't know if it's possible.
I know what one of them is.
One of them is the fact that he has never, ever, ever had long-term success without Tom Brady.
Yep.
When he was with the Cleveland Browns, they stunk. He was a fired head coach. They got rid of his ass just like the way the Browns get rid of every other coach that they have until basically the last handful of years when they became good. And, there was the 1 year with Matt Castle, but Matt Castle replaced injured Tom Brady, and they had everything surrounding. They had everything. I could have played quarterback for the New England Patriots in 2009 or 2008, whatever year it was that Tom got hurt, because it was 2007 that they almost had the perfect year, and then Tom Brady got hurt in the first game of the following year. And all you had to do was not suck on that team. You had Randy Moss, and you had the defense with all those guys still. But outside of that 1 year, Mac Jones, I think, got them to the playoffs one time, and then Buffalo dismantled them in the postseason. Beyond that, it's really kind of been a dumpster fire without Tom. I think Bill would like, I don't think it's all Bill's fault. I think a lot of Tom's success is due to Bill. It is a handshake agreement. But Tom did go to Tampa Bay and win without Bill. In year one, Tampa Bay magically went from a shit organization to a Super Bowl championship, like voodoo wizardry and bullshit magic.
To be fair, they weren't a shit organization, Vin. They just had Jameis Winston at quarterback, and then they had all the pieces, and then you plug in Tom with a really good team, and look what happened.
That is true. I'm not denying that at all. But Tampa Bay, leading up to that last year with Jameis, they weren't like a perennial playoff team and stuff. So, and then he's chasing the wins record. He's, I think, 15 wins away from being the all-time winningest coach in the NFL.
Yep.
I don't know where he'd have to go to attain that quickly, but I do think there's a chance that he goes and he searches for this thing. You didn't bring up my favorite team for Bill Belichick. I could see a world where he ends up with the Washington Commanders. They have the number 3 pick or number 2 pick. It's either 3 or 2. They have a pick where they can draft a quarterback and try to. And they were okay. I came into this year thinking the Commanders would be like an okay team, and they fell far below my expectations. Did the Commanders? And all of a sudden, they have this really high pick. They could draft one of the quarterbacks and see if Bill Belichick can kind of turn their franchise around. I'm excited to see where he lands. Saban's done, though. It was a fun ride having one of them in college and one of them in the NFL, but I don't know. It's very interesting times with both of them out of football as of right now.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what happens with Bill, because I'm certainly tired of seeing him on the New England sidelines.
Well, who's going to replace him, right?
It's going to be Vrabel, right?
Yeah, I think so. Especially now that the Charger, or was it the Texans owner that came out and like one of the reasons that he was annoyed with Vrabel and that led to his dismissal is the way he acted at I forget what event it was. He was being honored at Gillette Stadium with the Patriots, and he was like, pumping up the Patriots and stuff. I've heard that didn't sit well with Tennessee's owner. I don't know how true that is. That could be just some moron making stuff up online and Vinnie falling for it, but I think there probably is some truth to him always wanting to get back to New England. Did you
see the social media teams post about when they fired Vrabel? For the Titans?
Yeah.
It just simply said the Titans have parted ways with coach Mike Vrabel. Like, he was the coach for 6 years.
And he's probably, can you say he's the best coach in Titans history? Back-to-back number 1 seeds in the AFC?
It's certainly the conversation.
Yeah, and so now I think if he goes to New England, where he'll have tons of resources and moderately recent success to kind of like build on. I know they were a crap team this year, but I do think they really had a hard time scoring. I think their defense played well at time. But I think that's a good situation for Vrabel specifically to be walking into. And that just shows how the New England Patriots are committed to winning. The fact that they probably will land a guy like that, and the Bears are sticking with a loser like Matt Eberflus. And when we discuss the Bears staying with losers like Matt Eberflus, Joe, who in the world is there better to talk to than the president, the creator, the matriarch? Is matriarch a word you use for a male? The whatever it is you can say to describe leader of the Barroom Network. I'm talking about the great, the wonderful. Is he a doctor? I wouldn't shock me if he's Dr. Gandia.
He's sexy.
Sexy as hell. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I get a little hot thinking of him. I'm talking about Aldo Gandia. Aldo, welcome to the show.
Guys, what an introduction. I have never been introduced that way. Not in any of my 3 marriages. You have it. And by the way, it's patriarch, but matriarch, a lot of people have called me a mother effer. So
the mother effer of the Barroom Network.
There you
That's
go.
Awesome. The patriarch. I knew there was a word that was the synonym for matriarch, but for a male. But again, Aldo, we've discussed it many times. Your dumbest employee right here.
No, that's not the way you know your sports. Absolutely not.
He's like, not true. That's Mike North.
If you heard his show and some of his takes today, you might say that.
Well, Trubisky's going to lead the Steelers to the Super Bowl. I'm excited.
I love Mike. The outspoken opinions that Mike North has, whether you agree with them or not, he presents them in such an entertaining fashion that you just can't say no to him.
I agree. I think there's a genius thing about you if you can give an opinion that people agree with or disagree with, and you get a reaction one way or another. That is true talent. Aldo, you know what made me want to ask you to come on the show today with Joe and I? And we always want you. Please, no, we always want you.
Thank you. But
you put a video on Twitter.com. Formerly known as Twitter.com. We call it the X now. It's the X now. When Justin Fields took a hit late in the game against the Green Bay Packers, and you put the funniest video screaming at your TV. I'm sitting there. I'm like, listen, I'm mad too. I'm real mad. But Aldo's like mad. Like whoever was in your house with you, I don't know if your wife was home or if you had any of your children over.
They all out of the house.
Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness. That was so funny. It seems like you're laughing about it now, but Aldo, what a disgrace of a football game that was.
Yeah, it's a disgrace, but the thing that bothers me most, well, maybe not most, but one of the things that's bothered me for years is the NFL officiating. And people say full-time refs isn't going to make it any better. What are you kidding me? These guys, if they're working at these other jobs, whether it's the CEO of a bank or a pharmacist or whatever, because you've got people from all walks of life being officials for the National Football League, they got to be working 30, 40 hours a week at those other jobs. That could be time spent studying tape, having conversations with the crew, with other crews, talking about penalties that were missed, tendencies by teams, getting dictums from the NFL saying, watch out for this because, we got a letter from the Chicago Bears saying that and this tape showing all these hits to the head, we got to protect quarterbacks. They could be spending time honing their craft. Instead, they get their assignments and then they don't think about it for a few days. And then they have a meeting on Friday and then they talk about some of this stuff. I think that training is a huge, huge part of being successful at whatever you do. You've got to rehearse, you got to practice, you got to study, you got to do all this stuff. And NFL officials are not doing that. It's clear. And the rule book gets more and more complicated every year. I remember there being an NFL official after he left the business saying that there were still parts of the NFL rule book he did not know. So what's going on here? This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And when you're also officiating a violent sport like football, you have to really be super careful that you're doing the right thing to help prevent further hits to the head. And if you're going to allow these guys to get away with it, they're going to keep doing it.
It just makes me wonder, like, they definitely pay people on a full-time basis to do way stupider stuff that is far less needed than officiating.
Absolutely.
But, Joe, do you have anything for Aldo?
I'm kind of at a loss by the Bears' decision to keep Eberflus around. I guess I kind of understand it. We don't fully know the details behind his contract or whatever's going on behind the scenes, but we all got the guy we wanted gone in Getsy. There's a lot of names that are starting to emerge for offensive coordinator, and I guess I don't have one that like makes me tingle downstairs at all. There's not a name there, that gets me excited. Is there a name for you, Aldo, that you are slightly excited about when it comes to offensive coordinator?
Not a single one. What excites me is the pedigree, the resume, some of these guys, like the offensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins. I love the way they run that offense. And so, but I don't know anything about that guy. I don't know, his history and so forth. I talked about this a little on Tuesday night show. Is the key here is finding the right guy for the right players. So the Bears have to have an idea of what they're going to do at the quarterback position. Are they going to draft a pocket passer like a Drake May, or are they going to stay with an athletic quarterback, whether it's Justin Fields or Caleb Williams, and then tailor the interviewing process to that so that they can talk about how would you run Justin on this 3rd and 6? Give us some options about how to attack this Packers defense. What would you do? And we were faced with a situation against the Denver Broncos. Let me show you the tape. What would you have done in this situation? All of these questions are vital to learning, to getting the best information you can on how to treat this team. And so it's the process that intrigues me most. Unfortunately, they're not going to reveal much about the process, but it's important that they do a hell of a job. And if I can continue here on sort of a tangent here, please. One of the things that worried me is that Kevin Warren comes from this corporate background. He's been in the NFL for many years, but he's also been a lawyer. He's a commissioner of Big Ten, an agent, and so forth. So he clearly is the face of the Chicago Bears Incorporated. And he came in there yesterday, and he sounded like a corporate guy. It was sickening to hear, in my opinion. Yes, he said some things that were encouraging, but I've heard all this corporate speak, for so many years, working in corporations and having clients who spoke the same way, the CEO of McDonald's, the senior vice president over at Simeon Electronics, the blah, blah, blah. All these people all sounded like Kevin Warren. So that worried me a little bit, because it's always about the bottom line with these guys. It's always about profit over people and stuff. But he did say some things that were encouraging. But the one thing that he did that is discouraging is that every leader who comes into a new organization, they spend the first year looking at everything in the organization, and all he wants changed is the offensive coordinator, the play caller. He should have fired everyone in that coaching staff and said, we're going to start this whole thing over. I know, Ryan, you started it over a year ago, but now you and I are working together, Ryan Poles, and we're going to start it over. Oh, well, I don't know. We need to do that. Then you're fired too. That's what he should have said, because that's the way leaders are. You have to take control of the organization, spend some time investigating, getting answers, finding out from, he said he talked to like 2,100 employees of the Bears over the last year. Well, he should know that things aren't hunky-dory. He should know that the media team does a terrible job compared to other NFL teams with their technical stuff. He should know so many other things. And it just seems like after 11 months on the job, this is what you're giving us. firing the offensive coordinator, that was a given. That should have happened in season. We should have had another play caller come in and give Justin the opportunity to work with a different play caller, same system. So you didn't have to give Janoko or somebody a chance, because it was clear from very early on that Luke Getsy was not a good match for Justin Fields, an athletic, mobile quarterback versus a offensive coordinator who had never called plays and was the quarterback coach for Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers and Justin Fields are polar opposites of one another.
And you don't often see an offensive coordinator throwing his quarterback under the bus like Getsy did over the course of the season too.
Mm-hmm.
That just put a bad taste in my mouth halfway through the year.
Yeah, indeed. And I was at the Senior Bowl last year when Getsy was the coach for one of the two teams. I forgot it was North or South or whatever. But in any case, the practices that he ran were so lackluster as compared to the other team. The team that he coached got blasted in that Senior Bowl game. And I remember saying, this has been a really bad year. I put it up on X. This has been a really bad year for Luke Getsy. I mean, just 3 wins as the offensive coordinator for Chicago Bears, and loses an all-star game after a week of being criticized for the lackluster practices and stuff. It was just a trend, as Kevin Warren should have been noting these things.
Yeah.
And if Poles and Eberflus were adamant that, we need him, we need to have him for the 2023 season, there came a time where it was pretty obvious when your quarterback says, I'm being too robotic, it could be the coaching and so forth. And, this is not a good marriage.
It certainly wasn't. I think we're all happy that Getsy's gone. At least part of the equation is solved.
Exactly.
What about the fact, though, that multiple coaches on the Bears coaching staff have been fired in season for non-football related things? Why has that not come into play with the decision of Matt Eberflus and some of the stuff going on?
Swept under the rug.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was, the height of hypocrisy, for lack of a better word, when Ryan Poe said how much he valued how Eberflus handled the adversity thrown at him in 2023. That was the adversity he created because he hired those coaches. He came in, first of all, the whole idea of hiring a rookie head coach, a rookie offensive coordinator, and a rookie defensive coordinator, although I think Alan Williams may have had some coordinator experience in college or something like that. But nonetheless, these were 3 guys who were new at the job, and you really needed, out of those 3, that pyramid, that trio of coaches, coordinators, 2 coordinators or 3 coordinators with the special teams coach and the head coach, you need somebody there who has some wisdom in the NFL, and notice how Phil Snow comes in and is hired as a senior defensive analyst. And so he was scouting games 2 games ahead. And soon thereafter, of course, the acquisition of Montez Sweat had a lot to do with it too. But soon thereafter, that defense improved dramatically. And it's because you had somebody wise telling, a guy who has actually been on the sidelines calling plays, working with Eberflus. And so the whole idea that Eberflus is going to call plays again next year, I'm not crazy about that. I really am not, because in this day and age, and I know that some head coaches do it and do it well, but in this day and age, I don't want my head coach head buried in that Denny's menu, determining what play to call 2 downs from now or whatever. I want him overseeing the entire operation. I think Eberflus came in with the right idea, but what he did is he hired the wrong coordinators to do that. And
they got marketably better as the season went along. I do think that's fair to say. There were times where Justin looked good. I'm wishy-washy. I'm not going to ask you, hey, Aldo, what would you do with the note? We have 3 months to have that conversation. We'll have you back on probably 4 times before the draft.
Would love to.
And it's just one of those things you don't need to answer today. But they did, as a team, get markedly better over the course of the year. I mean, what they start? They started 0-4, and that extended extended the losing streak to like 14 games. Or it was like a franchise record. I think it got close to being an NFL record. And then they finally won a game. and they did start picking it up a little bit. But the end of the season, the way it ended against the Green Bay Packers, your arch rival for 100 years, to go out there and not score a single touchdown. I'm not going to ask you your definitive opinion on whether or not they should draft Caleb Williams or Drake May or trade down and end up with Penix Jr. or but like, you got to at least be thinking about the opportunity here that you have with this quarterback class. And Aldo, our first ever live show on any of shows on the network was me coming on Dan and Aldo discussing Mac Jones versus Justin Fields versus Trey Lance versus Trevor Lawrence. They all ended up sucking, but for the most part,
They did.
Lawrence is okay. He was injured, but for the most part, they all suck. Are we doing that again?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. I do know for an absolute fact that the Chicago Bears are currently doing due diligence on all of these quarterbacks who are first-round targets. So, they're doing background checks on Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels and Drake May and whoever else that they like based on their tape. So they're going to find out all the character flaws, all the positives, and so forth. And then they're going to sit down and evaluate that versus Justin Fields. Okay, well, this is what this guy can do. This is what that guy can't do. This is what Justin can do. This is what that guy can't do. What happens? And going through all the scenarios. I personally would love to give Justin one more year and surround him with weapons, because now you have an opportunity to draft one of the best wide receivers coming out of college football in a long time in Marvin Harrison Jr. And there are some people who say that Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze, the other two of the top three receivers, could be as good or better than Harrison. So you've got an opportunity to give Justin a playmaker. The reason I like Harrison and Odunze more than Neighbors, although Neighbors could be the best of the three, you're giving Justin Fields a huge target, a 6'2", 6'3" guy who runs a 4.4. You team him up with DJ Moore. Now you've got some weapons, along with Cole Kmet, and hopefully we get a speedy running back, a scat back to complement the other running backs on the team. Now you're cooking with some oil there that brings out the flavor in the offense.
That's right.
And you have to then make some improvements. You need a veteran center to come in to work with the young guys on the offensive line. We clearly need depth at the guard position because of the Tevin Jenkins injury situation, and we've got to question a little bit the right guard that was signed via free agency. Is he durable? He missed a lot of time. Yeah, he had some personal issues, and you can't blame him for that. But, I can't say we're absolutely, ready to go in 2024 with those two guards. And then you got the two outside tackles. I know they love Braxton Jones, but there's some really outstanding left tackles coming out in this draft. So if you have 3 first-round draft picks, you could address left tackle and wide receiver and then get a pass rusher too, because I keep saying a quarterback's favorite friend is a great receivers, right? But his second favorite friend is a great defense that's going to give him the ball at the 40-yard line, at the 50-yard line, half fields and so forth. So the Bears have a great opportunity to really help Justin Fields take that next step and to be a really good quarterback in this league. Is he ever going to put up the great numbers of great quarterbacks? I doubt it. You'd have to account for his rushing yards as well. So if he throws for 200 yards and he rushes for 100, that's a 300-yard day. And in today's NFL, that's good enough. The key thing is give him some weapons that he feels comfortable. I've heard all the press conferences this year. The one thing that stuck out most in my mind is he said, when I see DJ Moore one-on-one, I'll throw it up to him every single time because I know he's going to make a play on that ball. He is probably going to come down for it. Well, how about if you had 2 of those? And then you add Cole Kmet, the growing confidence he's shown with him. I think this Bears offense can take off. Now, if they decide to go on a separate route, I'll be interested to see, the rationale for that. I'm a little worried about, starting over with a rookie quarterback, but we'll see. We'll deal with that later.
Joe?
Yeah, there's so much value in that first pick this year. A lot of people want that generational quarterback. There's been that discussion about Caleb Williams. Oh, he's a once-in-a-generation quarterback. Whether or not you believe it, the conversation's there.
Mhm.
I mean, I just find it hard to believe that the Bears could hold on to that pick when there's so many teams that want it. My question for you, Aldo, and I've wrapped my head around this a bunch, and I still don't know the answer, is what the heck can the Bears get back? I know Greg Gabriel's loosely talked about it, but what compensation could we expect for giving up number one?
Yeah. Well, and before I'll answer that, I want to address Barrett Mysterio's questions. How many more years do we wait on Justin Fields? All I'm asking for is just one more year. One more year. You got to make a decision on his fifth-year option right after the draft. I would say no. I'm not going to offer you the fifth-year option because you can then still maintain him. If he takes off in 2024, you could place the franchise tag on him until you work out a contract, or you don't work out a contract and then you get. But I would give him 1 year because to me that's part of the 3-year rebuild. Is that quarterback going from A to B to C, and C hopefully being championship titles in the division at least.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I think it is reasonable to say that you can get the max in terms of first-round picks, and that's 3. The league will not allow any team to trade more than 3 first-round picks in any one particular deal. So it is reasonable to expect that. Of course, it depends on who you're trading with. So if you're trading with the New England Patriots, they're not going to trade you the number 2 overall pick in this draft. I think they have the number 2 overall pick, and then give you 2 more additional first-round picks. So that would be a little lower. But if you're dealing with a team like, for instance, the Cincinnati Bengals, they would gladly, but not that they need a quarterback, but if they wanted Marvin Harrison badly enough because they think that would be the perfect complement for Jamar Chase, and they had no plans to re-sign Jamar Chase. I don't know. I'm just off the top of my head.
Sure.
But there are other teams that will offer you a little less, but still the return on that pick, you're absolutely right, Joe. This is a pick because you're talking about 2 quarterbacks, Drake May and Caleb Williams, who are being looked at as can't-miss type projects. Trevor Lawrence at the bottom level, and maybe Patrick Mahomes. A lot of people have compared Caleb Williams with Patrick Mahomes. I personally don't see it, but imagine what you would get if what the Chiefs would get if they traded Patrick Mahomes right now. So it's basically similar to that.
Very interesting. I do think you can evaluate it. I've always been, Aldo, we've talked about this. I want to marry a quarterback and a coach in the same year. If they're not getting rid of Eberflus, then I think drafting a new quarterback would just be so dumb because and this is not me praising Justin. Justin, you talk about his 4th year, 5th year option. Bear Maestro says something about like being patient. First of all, you have no reason to be anything other than impatient. They've been a trash bag for the last 50 years. You've been patient enough, Mr. Bear Mysterio. But when it comes to drafting a quarterback, you're going to do the same thing for the 3rd time in a row. Basically, every quarterback since Jay. You married Mitch with John Fox, and then you fired him after 1 year with him, and then you bring in Matt Nagy. Okay, you keep Matt Nagy throughout Mitch. You bring in Justin for, you guessed it, 1 year of Matt Nagy. Then you can his ass and you bring in Matt Eberflus. You would be doing the same thing. If you bang your head into the wall 150 times in a row and your head starts to hurt, you should stop banging your head into the wall. It's dangerous. It's the same thing with the Bears. They keep banging their head into the wall over and over and over again.
That they do.
And if they don't get rid of Eberflus, they should keep Justin for this year. I'm with you, Aldo. I don't think I love college football. I try to watch it as frequently as I can. I don't see in Caleb Williams, even what I saw in Lawrence. And Lawrence was great last year. He was good up until his injury this year. People are going to poo on him all offseason. He was 7-3 before his injury, and then things just weren't the same. Before that, he got
messed up, man.
I'm
shocked they played on that.
Me too. That was just a dumb mistake by the Jaguars, in my opinion. But you reap the benefits of whatever. I don't know the saying. I'm dumb, but
you reap what you sow.
Reap what you sow. But they they got to them themselves. But like, I don't even see in Williams what I saw in Lawrence. And people, Andrew Luck, are you Andrew Luck? Get out of here with that. Andrew Luck, he could go to the Hall of Fame based on his short career. You can argue. Don't give me Andrew Luck when talking about Caleb Williams. Next year, we found out that during this show, breaking news, Quinn Ewers is returning to Texas. He announced on his Instagram. That could force Arch Manning to use the transfer portal to his advantage. There are going to be some quarterbacks coming out next year that people might be thinking very highly of. Imagine if Arch Manning goes to Ohio State, gets himself in the Heisman conversation, and all of a sudden Ohio State is where Michigan was this year. And Bears fans are going to be like, well, Justin Fields isn't working out. We gave him that last chance with Eberflus. You fire Eberflus and you bring in a new quarterback in the same year. If it doesn't work out next year, I'm a negative Nancy when it comes to the Bears. I can't help it, only because every single time I turn in the other direction, they like shove it up my hoop. But it's just sad. So I don't know where everybody else stands on this, but I do think with the report from, I think it was Schefter and Rappaport put it out there that they are keeping Matt Eberflus. If you're waiting for Matt Eberflus to be fired, you're going to be waiting a long time. It's not happening. See you next year, Matt.
What would have happened by now?
I think so too. I mean, I literally pulled up while Aldo was talking the head coaches that were already let go or fired. Pete Carroll, gone, legend, going to the Hall of Fame. Bill Belichick, legend, going to the Hall of Fame. Ron Rivera, interesting name, former ties to the Bears, of course. Art, what's his last name? I'm drawing a blank. Falcons
Smith?
Coach. Yeah,
Arthur Smith.
Obviously Vrabel. Then you got, we don't want Josh McDaniels.
Nobody does.
Yeah. No. And then you got
He'll be the OC in New England.
Exactly. Probably. Well, if they kept he might go to the Washington team if Belichick. That would not shock me one bit. But then they got rid of the guy in San Diego, Los Angeles, and then Carolina. There's all sorts of these teams acting serious, and the Bears are just not one of them. And that's just kind of the way it seems right now. Now, Aldo, I know you love polls, and this is my question for you. This is his first decision that's been made that I don't think is necessarily all him, but it's the first time where I'm like, polls. What are you doing, dude? You didn't draft Justin. Nobody blamed you for Justin not living up to his hype and potential up to this point. You got DJ Moore. The trade for the number one pick, in my opinion, was outstanding. You made a trade with a team that ended up being the worst team in the league. That was just such good vision by Ryan Poles, and I like what they've done with the roster. Like I said, they got markedly better. But then you're keeping Eberflus. I'm like, that's a major demerit on your, on your report card there, Mr. Poles. I don't know. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I don't like the idea at all that Matt Eberflus is returning. I do, like Joe said at the top of the show, I do understand the thinking behind it. You want some continuity. You want to give the rebuild plan a chance. You want to, one of the things when I worked at a corporation, one of the things that I learned is that if you have an employee who's not performing well, you don't immediately fire them. I mean, that for me, that was always my first inclination. Get rid of them. Get rid of that employee who's responsible for the video editing, or that employee. You trained them. You put them on a performance improvement plan. And so I think that's what Poles is doing with Matt Eberflus. I think that for those 48 hours after the final atrocity against the Packers, they sat down and they said, Matt, this is where we want you to improve on. These are your goals for 2024. And you have to do better at time management. You have to do better at interviewing coaches. You have to, a whole list of things. I can see that, and I can see that being a good thing. But I still can't get over the fact that when he talks, he doesn't inspire confidence in the fans. And I know the players are all behind Matt Eberflus. At least that's what they say outwardly. I've heard some stories that on the sidelines, that's not exactly what's going on, that they're grumbling and, some of the pathetic play calls that Eberflus did. Let's face it, the defense, which is under his auspices, lost us 2 double-digit fourth quarter leads. That's on Flus. And the players weren't pointing at each other. they were kind of pointing at why would he have the defensive tackle drop back at the coverage on a 3rd and 15 and guarding Janoko? Is that his name? Not Janoko. Njoku. Yes. So those things are on Eberflus. So I'm with you. I wish I knew more about him and what's going on at Hallis Hall to offer a definitive opinion. I would just say a very soft, I wish he was gone, but I'm willing to give him 1 more year's a chance. And I know if Danny Shimon is watching this right now, he's saying, I still haven't taught Aldo anything because he hates Eberflus and wants him gone. And then to answer that question about signing free agent Mike Evans, I've always loved him as a receiver since the time he came out into the league. But my problem with signing a veteran wide receiver is you're going to pay him the same thing you're going to pay DJ Moore. And the plan is you bring in a free agent wide receiver, and I know we traded for DJ Moore, but you're bringing in that $20+ million salary, and then now you complement him with a really good draft pick, and that would be a Harrison, a Neighbors, Keon Coleman, who will probably be available late 1st round, early 2nd round. He's a stud. There's a lot of other. So you want one highly paid guy, and then you want his successor. So if you can't reach an agreement with DJ Moore, then that other guy you just drafted, he's got 2 or 3 years under his belt with the Bears, and now he's ready to take over. And the same thing at the defensive end position. You're not going to spend $30 million on, a veteran defensive pass rusher, a stud. You've got your stud that you acquired in a trade. You're paying him $100 million, Montez Sweat. Now you draft a kid out of UCLA, Latu, or you draft Chop Robinson out of Penn State, a speed rusher like Danny Shimon says he would love to see on the Bears to play opposite Sweat. So that's the plan. You kind of have to disperse those salary cap dollars around and balance it out with those low wages that draft picks bring with them.
Mike Evans, Johnny Football's #1 receiver at Texas A&M. That's the #1 thing I always think of. Really quick, Joe, before you get to whatever your next thing is, I have a question for both of you.
Yeah.
You put up that video of Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles sitting at the press
they look
conference.
so happy, don't they?
I was going to say they at least look cool. Like I remember when Matt Nagy and Ryan Poles would go up there, I'd be like, look at these dorks. Look at these losers. Matt Eberflus, what a stallion looking man he is. And then same thing with Ryan Poles. Just absolute studly muffins. And I'm sitting here like, I want to win. I do want to win with these guys. I want these guys to be, what we thought they might be. It sucks that Eberflus is mostly stunk. And what is he, like 8-20 something as a head coach? Like they need to turn that around though. These guys, they look cool.
Yeah, I think a lot of that coolness for Eberflus in that image there is that cool ass jacket that he's wearing.
Hell yeah! How do we get one of those? The Bear logo on the left, and then a Barroom Network logo.
Oh yes, working on it. I
could be cool. I'm not very cool, but I could be cool.
I don't know. You look cool in that Bears jersey cool, right now.
Justin Fields jersey.
But hey, to Sonic put up that I would draft Penix or Bo Nix just in case. I like the idea. Let's take a look at the teams that are in the NFC playoffs. You've got the San Francisco 49ers as the #1 seed. Their starting quarterback was Mr. Irrelevant, the last person drafted in the draft.
Let's go.
So he's not a first rounder by any means, the last guy. Cowboys, a 4th round pick in Dak Prescott. The Lions acquired in a trade. And Jared Goff was the first overall draft pick, but he was acquired in a trade. Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield. Again, a real high draft pick, but he was acquired in a trade. This is what, 3rd, 4th team? Jalen Hurts with the Eagles, 2nd round draft pick. Matt Stafford, also acquired in a trade. Jordan Love, a 1st round draft pick, but he sat for 3 years. And so what my point is that you can acquire a quarterback in day 2 of the draft, even day 3 of the draft. And if you've got good coaches and you've selected a guy that is right for the system, and that system is being used and coached and taught really well, you could develop a Brock Purdy. You could develop a Dak Prescott. Nobody expected Dak Prescott to play at this high level.
Yeah,
but
MVP caliber.
Exactly. But there he was in the 4th round, and I'm wondering, man, this would be a really good chance to do as Ryan Pace would say, we're going to draft a quarterback every year. Well, what about this guy? He's pretty good. But they didn't, and so I'm with you. Who was it that put that up? Sonic.
Oh.
Draft a quarterback in day 2, day 3 if you're not going to attack one in the 1st round of this year's draft. And one other thing, and I know people are going to say, Aldo, you've been drinking already? No, I'm going to start drinking after the show.
I was going to say,
about lunchtime.
That's exactly. I have not given up on Tyson Bagent potentially becoming a starting quarterback, and I'll tell you why. He's got all the tools, the quick release, knows how to read defenses, great attitude, teammates like him, and so forth. Was he ready for NFL action in his rookie year, coming from a Division II school? Absolutely not. But this is a huge offseason. This is where you start to see progress. So when Vinnie and I and Joe, hopefully you're in town, we go out to Hallis Hall to watch one of the practice scrimmages. Let's take a look at Tyson Bagent and see how he's doing. I'm not saying that he should be the number 1 quarterback in 2024, but I am saying that he is potentially somebody that can be developed into an even stronger backup than he was. He did deliver 2 victories in 4 games, and that's what you want out of a backup, a 500 record when they're in there. But he could potentially be a starting quarterback if he continues to develop, sort of like Jordan Love. If they were to put him in his rookie year, gotten rid of Aaron Rodgers 4 seasons ago, he would not have been anywhere near the quarterback that we saw in game 1 and 17 of this past season. So the development of Bagent is still on the table. I'm surprised that wasn't the question that was asked. Not that you would have got any good response, but the developing of quarterbacks, you should always keep them coming in the pipeline, work them out, and the ones that you like and say this guy is somebody that's got something, you keep them. The other ones that you drafted and they don't work out, let them go.
Joe, do you have anything left for Aldo before we ask him to put him on the spot and make him give us his wild card weekend picks?
Oh,
you got me here today.
The only thing I wanted to comment on is that Penix Jr. obviously got roughed around by Michigan the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Arguably, you could argue that might help drop his stock a little bit, but he certainly can throw a pretty ball. I think we've all seen that. Injury concerns are going to knock him down. Whether or not he's a late 1st or 2nd rounder is a whole conversation, but. I see him potentially going into the 2nd round and maybe being a guy the Bears could maybe get a stock that falls. I just wanted to make that commentary before we move on, but that's the last thing that I have.
Well, and just real quick on Penix, I started following the Bears a long, long time ago, and there was a quarterback, the second quarterback that I started following. The first one was Jack Concannon, and the second one was Bobby Douglas, a left-handed quarterback who was 6'4". He was built like a tight end, and he would eventually play for the White Sox farm organization because he threw the ball so fast. He threw 100-mile-an-hour football. So you imagine what he threw baseball at. But so I've always loved left-handed quarterbacks, and I am a left-handed myself. The whole idea of Penix potentially being a Bear, a 2nd-round pick would be, I think, enormous value. And then developing him a la Jordan Love, that would be music to my ears. I do think that the guy has some red flags, the injuries and some inconsistency in play and so forth. But if you give Penix, look at that. Man, I just love it coming from the left side. Left-handed golfers, no. That does not look good. Left-handed quarterbacks, yes. That looks, look at that. Look at that. That's got to be Roma Dunizé. Oh, man. He did have a bad game against Michigan. That probably will lower his stock value, and that could be a good thing for the Chicago Bears if he's there in round 2 and we've acquired a 2nd-round pick to invest in him.
Joe brings up a good point. Fields was all over the Bears social media videos for London.
Yeah.
Little strange. All right, Aldo. I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay.
And Aldo reserves the right to change his picks by Sunday. He will announce them on X if he changes them. Just so you know.
Okay.
Buffalo versus Pittsburgh.
I've got the Bills squeaking out a win. Let's face it, it always comes out down. I don't like the way the Bills have played this year, but the adage, you got to pick the quarterback in these playoff games, and Josh Allen is an easy pick over what's the guy's name that's quarterback? Mason Rudolph. And I like Mason, but he's no Josh Allen. And but I do think that the Steelers will keep it close.
Joe?
I believe TJ Watt's also out for this game, I believe.
What?
Yeah.
So that's a huge loss for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Bills win it. I think it's a little closer than advertised, but I think the Bills pull it off.
All right. Kansas City versus Miami, the Peacock game. Taylor Swift makes her playoff debut on Peacock. Aldo?
I'm sorry. What game was that again? I'm just thinking about Foster coverage says that I was on the Canton Bulldogs in 1920. Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah, Foster.
Which is the game on Peacock that Mike North is going crazy over because he doesn't know what the hell Peacock is.
Yeah, well, it's time for Mike North to get with the times. You got to stream football games every now and again. Mike, come on. Come on. Kansas City versus Miami. Another thing I'm sure Mike is nice and happy about, it's Taylor Swift's playoff debut.
That's a tough one, man.
It is a tough one.
That's a tough one.
Now imagine me telling you how tough that pick is going to be in August. You would have told me I'm on crack.
Yeah. See, I'm going to lean towards the Chiefs because of the injury problems the Dolphins are having. They lost one of their top pass rushers. I think a second guy, Bradley Chubb, I think is also out too, right? So the defense, despite the fact that coached by Vic Fangio, the defense is not going to get torched because this Chiefs offense is not the offense that we're accustomed to seeing over the last 3-4 years. But I got the Chiefs winning in another tight game. This could be a really fun weekend of football.
Oh, hell yeah. I can't wait, Joe.
I think it's going to be. I'm going the other side of the fence. I think Miami wins in a blowout in the Tyreek Hill revenge game.
Wow.
Tyreek Hill over 200 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns is my bold prediction against the Chiefs. It's kind of super bold. It's beyond bold. It's insane, but I think Miami smokes them. The Chiefs offense is not the same. I don't think Miami goes far in the playoffs, but I think they knock out the Chiefs and do us all a favor because we're all sick of seeing the Chiefs in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's fair.
If the Chiefs were to be knocked out, there should be a something in a television contract saying that if the quarterback is knocked out of the playoffs, you cannot air any of his commercials. Because I am sick and tired of Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes on every other commercial.
That Subway commercial with Mahomes, I'm over that.
Yeah.
Please call him Ma'ato. He referred to him as Ma'ato. I mean, it was funny. The first commercial I saw after turning away from Red Zone on Sunday was involving Trevor Lawrence, who had just been eliminated by.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Yeah, very fun. Very fun. Yeah, get these guys with the commercials out of here if they're not in anymore. I don't want to see them. Chicago does not run on fields. Okay, Duncan does not run on fields in the playoffs. Houston versus Cleveland, very intriguing matchup. The only game Frankie Mueller and I disagreed with yesterday.
Oh, okay.
We agreed on every pick except this one.
Well, Joe, you want to go first this one?
Yeah, Vinnie knows this from my love for this team on this show and with the way I drafted my fantasy team at the top of the year. But I love the Cleveland Browns. I love Joe Flacco. They're my Super Bowl pick at 35-1. I'll make that bet for $10 every day.
I'm about to start barking.
That defense is elite. Joe Flacco looks like he's settled in the path. The only thing stopping them, I think, is the Ravens. So sign me up for all shares of the Browns. Take it to Browntown. That's the worst thing I've ever said on air.
That's right. I'm gonna go the opposite way from you guys. Yeah, I like the Texans. I love that coaching staff. Really love D'Amico and his staff. Stroud. Yeah, and CJ Stroud is a special quarterback. And Ryan Poles was asked about where'd you guys miss on CJ Stroud. Well, the fact of the matter is that no one predicted CJ Stroud was going to have this kind of a rookie year. Nobody. They knew, a lot of people knew he was going to be a good quarterback, but not the type of numbers that he put up this year. And I like that what Houston has done. It's too bad they didn't give Lovey one more year. We probably could have got another big victory in our favor because he's always working for the Bears somehow, some way. But I do like the Texans winning that game.
Love it. I wouldn't care either way. I like both teams. So
I think I would pick Houston in an upset if they were playing anyone but my Cleveland Browns, the team I've been riding with, basically just to annoy Pittsburgh Steelers fan Frankie all season. But like my love for the state of Ohio, I'd be rooting for the Bengals. And now that Tom Brady is no longer in the NFL, I have to decide who I'm rooting for once the Bears are done, because that was always like my go-to. Like, all right, the Bears season's over. It's Tom's season now. That doesn't exist for me anymore. So I kind of had to like look in the mirror a little bit. It's been Cleveland a little bit this season. So I don't know. It should be a fun game, though. I'm very much looking forward to that one.
Another good one, yes.
Absolutely. I think every one of these games except one, I think Buffalo is going to – I kind of think Buffalo is going to take care of their business against Pittsburgh. I could see every other game being relatively close, though. Now, the only other one that could kind of get ugly is one of the first games of the NFC slate, Dallas versus Green Bay. We know who everybody on this network wants to win, but who do you think is going to win? Joe, you could go first again.
It's not particularly close for me. I think Green Bay gets absolutely blown out of the water.
I thought you were going to say something else. Holy shit. My heart.
Their offense can't stick with Dallas. Dallas is arguably the best offense in football. They have one of the best defenses in football. They don't know how to use Aaron Jones. They don't know how to use their receivers. Jordan Love is going to look like the Jordan Love that, that likes to throw errant passes. And I imagine you're going to see Jordan Love get picked off at least twice in this game, trying to force the ball into places it shouldn't go. Blowout. Dallas wins big.
Aldo?
Yeah, I gotta agree with that. Almost word for word with what Joe said there. These young Packer wide receivers are going to get their egos busted by this Cowboys defense, and I agree with Joe. A couple of interceptions, at least 2 interceptions for Jordan Love is in the cards. I think that's probably the biggest blowout of this weekend's playoff games.
A sobering question to follow up for both of you. You could give me a yes or a no or an explanation on why. Will the Dallas-Green Bay game feature the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFC from this season?
Oh, my gosh. From the NFC this season. Who do you have above that, Joe?
There are 2 options. There are 2 options.
Above Jordan Love and Dak Prescott?
The options would be Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy. But I think I would rather have Prescott and Love.
It's Purdy and Prescott for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say the same thing as Joe. Jordan Love to me still has some more to prove. You look at the clips, some of his touchdown passes, and they were remarkable. He's throwing off the back foot, and he's lobbing the ball into the end zone. I just got to believe that this offseason, defensive coordinators are going to look at what Jordan Love does, and they're going to have answers for that. You watch, there could be a big-time dip in Jordan Love's play, at least in the first half of next season. Mark this down, at 57 and 58 of Crosstown Crosstalk episode 1,357,000.
Feels like it.
Jordan Love is going to come back down to earth, and we might start to see that this weekend against the Cowboys.
Understood. Very interesting answers. I worry. I'll just leave it at that. The Monday night game, because I'm saving one particular game for last due to our, there's one really nice troll that likes to come on the Barroom Network and talk about his favorite team. We'll save them for last. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the team that everybody, when we did our draft back in whatever month that was, August, September, it was August probably, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're going to be the worst team in the NFL. Nope, they're the NFC South champions. And the division, it was bad, but it wasn't as bad as people thought it was going to be. Their second place team had a chance to make it on the last day of the regular season. So it wasn't a complete dumpster fire like it was the year prior. Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Philadelphia Eagles, who started the season on an absolute tear and then fell off a cliff. Aldo, you first.
Yeah, the Eagles have had an interesting season because even when they started off in the tear, there were still people complaining. They're winning by 38-27. There were still people complaining, about even the offense, and they're scoring 30-plus points. So there just hasn't, by people who are closer to the situation than I am, there just hasn't been that thing going on with the Eagles. And even now, Jalen Hurts, one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league, is being criticized. Is he the right guy? And blah, blah, blah. I think the Eagles are going to respond to those critics, and I think they're going to win. And they might make a long playoff run. I like the Eagles this weekend.
Wow, I like it, Aldo. With that said, I'm taking the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers have been the better team as of late. The Philadelphia Eagles just look completely flabbergasted and lost.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't want to be there. I wouldn't put it past them to magically wake up here in the playoffs, but I don't know. They put such a bad taste in my mouth. They lost to the Giants. I mean, what? They don't look like they want to win, and I have no confidence in them. So for that reason, I'm going to go with the team that I think is better. I'm going to say it, better defense and slightly better offense as of right now.
There are a lot of names that remain from the Super Bowl champion Buccaneers. But I picked Philly on bar down, but I still think Tampa Bay has the remains of a team that at least deserves some respect. And Baker Mayfield, he did prove some people wrong this year, although they tried so hard to make the playoffs in the final month of the season, but it seemed like in the last 2 weeks of the season, they tried to do everything they could to miss. And so that did put a bad taste in my mouth on that front. Both teams are kind of entering with mixed expectations, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a good one, though, for sure. And then the last game we're going to talk about, our buddy Don Burr. He comes in. He comes in our chat on Bar Down Talking Hockey and starts talking about how good the Red Wings are when they're in the middle of a 5-game losing streak. Literally, that happened. I swear to God that happened. The Red Wings have been significantly better this year than they've been in the last 5 years since their 25-year playoff streak ended. But they were in the middle of a 5-game losing streak. And here comes Don Burr. How about them Red Wings? And now the Detroit Lions are going to take on Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams. I feel like I've seen this movie 150 million times where a guy who kind of got pushed away from a team, he went and magically won the Super Bowl with the Rams the year before. Because of the Rams and the Bucks, everyone picked the Denver Broncos to win the Super Bowl last year because, former elite quarterback or current elite quarterback joins elite team. They win Super Bowl magically. That did not happen with Denver, unfortunately. Maybe it's the colors blue and orange that are just cursed. But
Probably.
Here we are, the Los Angeles Rams versus the Detroit Lions. Aldo, kick it off.
There was a time in my life where I would have rooted for the NFC North, where at the time back then it was the NFC Central teams, just to feel better about myself that the Bears aren't in the playoffs because
similar to like a college theory.
Yeah. Right. So, but this year, I think that the Lions and Packers are both going to lose early in the playoffs. So the Lions clearly going to lose against the Rams. And I'm happy about that. I've changed over the years. I've become more of a curmudgeon, and I don't want anybody from my division doing better than my Chicago Bears. I'm being scolded at by Vinnie.
No, I agree.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying no. We will not be rooting for the Detroit Lions.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Although the Lions are my favorite division rival, but I digress.
Okay. So, I love the storyline in this game. It's probably the marquee matchup just because it's Stafford versus Goff. And, you got the two head coaches who are bigger than
Sunday night, right?
Prime time on Sunday night. They got the big slate. So, they agree with you, Aldo.
They did a good job in scheduling that one for Sunday night.
Yep.
So regardless of I'm not gambling anymore. I did it for a year. I put $200 in. I got up to as much as 1,000 and then went broke. And so I said, okay, I tried it once. I'm not going to do it.
Easy to do.
Yeah. In a game like that, I would be betting big time on the Rams, but I also know it would be not because I did the research, but with my heart, I'm betting that the Rams are going to win big time.
Joe?
I'm going to go the opposite side of the fence. I think Detroit's the better team. They're a more well-rounded team. I live in Michigan now, okay?
Oh.
Betting with his heart.
He's got the national championship. His Lions are about to go on a run.
That's
Michigan.
right.
I'm a Bears fan, but I live in Michigan territory. But no, that's beside the point. I still think the Lions are going to win this game. The offense, I think, both offenses can certainly be explosive at times.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to come down to a field goal. It's going to be a really close game. It just seems to me like one of those games that the Lions win because Dan Campbell goes for it on like a crazy, 4th and 6. It blew up in his face last week.
Shouldn't have had to, but it did.
Shouldn't have had to, but it did. I think the opposite happens this time around. It's going to be close. They're going to go for it, and then they're going to kick a field goal as time expires, and then they all kumbaya, give a big hug, and move on to the next round. The Lions' defense certainly needs to improve if they want to move further in these playoffs.
Well, I was just going to say real quick that it has been a storyline with the Lions, right? These fourth quarter losses or stumbles, where they get out to a big lead and then they allow the team to get back in. They either hold on to win like they did the first time they faced the Bears this season, or, they don't hold on to win like in a number of other games this season. So I could see that as a storyline on Sunday night, that the Rams fall behind and then the Lions defense lets them back in. It could be a really dramatic game.
I will say I would love if Foster's thing in the chat came true, if the Lions played the Browns, and I would hope that both of them can come to some kind of agreement that they could wear like their old school jerseys, like where their logos are just colors. Like I think that is the coolest thing the NFL does, is when when the Bears play the Packers and the Packers logo is literally just like yellow or green and the Bears logo is just orange or blue. I love that old school football. Then the NFL would start to get with hockey and baseball in terms of pretty jerseys. I think they would really up themselves if that became the case. But man, that would be cool. Now, I will say, if I live in a world on Sunday night where it's about 9:45, I got a crispy can of Coke. I'm listening. I'm watching games. I got a bag of chips.
Crispy.
When Coca-Cola is crispy, that's when it's at its best. I'll explain.
Okay.
I'll explain.
Right.
And the Lions are down, or the Lions are up by 6, and Stafford's got the ball with 1 minute and 50 seconds left, and he marches the Los Angeles Rams down the field and he beats the Detroit Lions, and Don Burr goes, no, I need that. But I do think it would be fun if Detroit did go on a run. I do like MCDC. He does remind me of an NFL version, a younger, of Coach O, where he's just kind of like, roll tide, who, fuck you. Like, I love it. I love what they're doing, but it's going to be a super fun weekend. I literally cannot wait, guys.
Yeah. Do you recall, I think it was in Stafford's rookie season, they had him mic'd up for a game and he got injured late in the game, and the Lions were trailing, and you hear him as he's, in pain and so forth.
He had the dislocated shoulder, right?
Yeah, that's it. And so he takes the team down for a winning drive in the last minutes of the game. That would be great if Vinnie's scenario played out there and they have him wired up, and what he did for Detroit, winning that game, to do it against Detroit now in the playoffs. That would be poetic, man.
That would be poetic. That would be awesome. Guys, I can't thank both of you enough for coming on and providing this football insight. This has been one of my favorite shows. I haven't sat down the entire time. I've been moving this whole time. This has been unbelievable. I have loved each and every second of it. Joe found video because he's a savant.
That's the game. He's mic'd up and he's looking how he's favoring that shoulder, leaning towards the left a little bit. Yeah.
Aldo, you could probably answer this better than Joe and I before we get out of here. I'll finally leave you guys alone. But that video looks like it could be in the 80s, 90s, mid 2000s. And now I think video programming has changed in the last 7 years, more than the previous 50 years combined. That like that looks like it could be in the 90s, this video, just the way it is.
No, you're absolutely right.
Like it changed so much in the last 5 years even.
Yeah,
look at him. He can't even move his arm.
Yeah, that's right. He's saying, I can't move it. I can't move it. but that's when he threw the touchdown, I think, to win. You're absolutely right, Vinny. High definition cameras have improved so much, and it's a new era. It's weird, because in the prime of my life, I watched every one of the Chicago Bulls games during that championship run. And now when they're playing again on cable, on the NBA channel and so forth, they're unwatchable because they're grainy. It looks awful and so forth. It's just so sad that aside from the camera crew that covered the Bears and Bulls in that final season for The Last Dance, aside from that, there's no high definition images of Michael Jordan doing the fabulous things that he did. But you're right. The NFL and technology, state-of-the-art technology, and the NFL was built for cinema. It's the sport and what the NFL films did with the slow motion and stuff. And now you're putting it with these beautiful images that high def cameras deliver. It's outstanding. I love it.
Absolutely. Your team's a joke if the most recent footage of them winning a championship looks like it was recorded using a grapefruit. Joe, Aldo, it has been absolutely ecstatic having you on this show. I love you both very much. Yes, Southburg Pittman. It's closer than you think. Spring training starts in a month. So we will be all in ready to watch the super excitement of the Chicago White Sox and the Chicago Cubs. That is absolutely going to just be a great season for both of them. Aldo, make sure you're watching Aldo stuff. Dan and Aldo, the stuff with Greg Gabriel, the Mike North press conference every week. Joe, just everything he's got going on. I think is fantasy football Goon. Like, are you going to do anything for the playoffs to help people?
We are done with fantasy football Goon. We'll be back in August with draft prep.
We'll be back. Yes, absolutely. That'll be so fun. And then, of course, South Bribs Hitman will return. You'll get plenty of Joe Mandel soon enough. And on this show every Thursday, it's been an absolute blast. Make sure you tune in next Wednesday where Frank and I will break down why the Cleveland Browns absolutely throttled the Houston Texans. And he was wrong about the Cleveland Browns yet again. And we'll talk a lot about hockey and, why the Blackhawks should trade everybody that's not on a longer than a 1-year deal. And everybody in the chat, Joe, Michael, Foster, Tooch, everybody that I didn't mention, we love you very much. Thank you so much for tuning in. For Aldo Gandia at Barroom Network on X, at Joe Mandel on X, I'm at Vinnie Parise on X. And as always, thank you for listening.
Another happy landing.